G'day, welcome to Oly35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus 35mm cameras. I'm going to talk really fast today because I've got a lot to tell you about today's camera, and that is the OM4, or in this case the OM4 Ti, which is the model that I have, although I have actually owned both. Quick bit of history: 1973 the Olympus OM1 came out, 75 it was upgraded, 79 it was upgraded, 1975 the OM2 came out, 79 it was upgraded, and they ran through to about 1983. There was need for a new professional camera, and both of those models were professional cameras, and Olympus brought out two. They brought out the OM3 and the OM4. The OM3 ran from 83 to 86 and then had a 9-year break till 95 when it brought out the OM3 Ti, which was the titanium body. And that ran through to 2002 when Olympus finally closed down their OM line of cameras. Very sad day. 2003 they finally finished making the lenses, and I think they kept spare parts for 10 years after that, and then no more. One of the problems you have with buying old cameras. Anyway, to get back to the line. The Olympus OM4 ran from 1983 to 1987, and then it was upgraded to the OM4 Ti in 1987, and that ran all the way through to 2002, again when the OM line closed down. The OM4 Ti also stands for titanium, and I can let you know, I'll show you a little bit later on, that these things are not indestructible, but it certainly was a very, very robust body. The difference between the OM4 and the OM4 Ti, bar the actual titanium body, was the OM4 had a problem with battery leakage, which must have driven the professionals absolutely crazy. In fact, my OM4, I loaned it to somebody and they left it on overnight. The battery leakage then ran down the batteries within 24 hours and everything locked up. So the idea, if you buy yourself an OM4, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. Feel free to go out and buy one. They're cheaper than an OM4 Ti, but make sure you either A, take the batteries out when you're finished using it, or B, you set your shutter speed around to the B setting. Now, I must admit, I just tend to take the batteries out anyway. Okay, so let's get into the camera because I've got a lot to tell you. All right, the main amount of time that I'm going to be spending with this is to talk about the spot metering. I'll be as quick as I possibly can, but I have to let you know you really need to do some more research to see if this camera is right for you, simply because it's quite a complex camera to use. And I must admit, I've run 9 films through this and the OM4 that I had before this one, and I'm still trying to get my head around the spot metering. So let's get straight into it. There's a spot metering function which we have manual metering, plus we have automatic, aperture preferred automatic metering. You can choose your aperture, and there's generally center weighted metering in there, but if you want to take advantage of the spot, and I suggest you do, you have up to 8 individual readings of a small section of the center of the viewfinder. I can't quite remember what it is. It may be 2 degrees, it may be 4 degrees, somewhere about there anyway, where you can actually look at very, very small parts of your image and you can take readings from there. So it's like having one of those spot meters, those handheld spot meters built into your camera. What you can also do is you can actually do that 8 times. It will take up to 8 readings, which is absolutely amazing. And it shows you in a bar in the viewfinder shutter speeds from 1 second through to a 2,000th of a second, which is the manual range on this camera. And the little bar runs up, and when you press the spot button, and you need to press that once, it will then put a little dot above the shutter speed that is chosen. And then when you pick your next, it puts another dot in, another dot, up to 8 times, and then you'll see there's a little flashing dot which will actually tell you which is the shutter speed that the camera has, or the camera's computer I suppose, has decided is the optimum shutter speed to choose to give you the right exposure. Even better than that, It has a reset function, because let's face it, you're going to get it wrong. It has a reset function, and this little ring or lever, if you like, that's around the shutter button, if you push it that way, it will reset. But if you push it this way, it will actually have a memo function on it, and that means you can take more than one exposure at the same spot metering section, so you don't have to do it again and again for each photograph. If you don't press in that memo, then of course it will reset itself as soon as you're taking the photograph. And to let you know that you're on memo, there's a little word that says memo in the viewfinder, plus this little red light will actually flash fairly slowly to let you know that the memo function is actually still on. It doesn't end here though. You also have highlight and shadow buttons as well for high key and low key exposures as well, or scenes. Now I'm not going to go into those. You'll need to research that yourself to find out what high key and low key is. Okay, so that is the spot metering function. Absolutely amazing. Get your head around it and it will really suit you very, very well. Okay, what about the rest of the camera? Okay, you have an ISO range from 6 through to 3200. It's manually set. This is not a DX coded camera. It is manually set by pulling up this knurled ring and then twisting it to the appropriate ISO setting. It also doubles as a 2-stop plus or minus exposure compensation wheel as well. We have a diopter. So those of us who have glasses and don't like to use glasses, as we're looking through the viewfinder, you can adjust the diopter to suit your eye, which is very, very handy. We have a rewind button up here, and we have the film counter and of course the rewind lever for the film. Hot shoe, I won't go into that for the moment because I want to tell you about the f280 flash in a little while, but it's got a hot shoe. It works with the T-series flashes plus the f280. It's TTL, and so through the lens metering, which means that you set your aperture, the camera will automatically tell the flash when to shut off when there's been enough exposure, basically, or the flash is exposed enough, which is very, very handy. Okay, so that's the top. The front, we have a self timer on the front, and it's actuated by pulling up. There's a little levery thing, slide, I suppose. There's a little slide that you put your fingernail under, pull it up, and then twist it either to the right, or that's my right anyway, the right, or supposedly to the left. And the difference is that's audible and visual indication. Supposedly if you turn it that way, it turns the audio off, but all it does is just reset it for me, so I don't know if there's a problem with the camera or what. So you'll see the audible and visual indication. It will change the frequency in the last 2 seconds of roughly 12 seconds to let you know that you're almost there. There's the frequency change, and off we go. All right, what else is on the front? There is, you might notice on the top here, there is a little window, and that actually lights up the bar at the bottom of the viewfinder, which tells you what your shutter speed is, and also those other features like memo. What was the other one? Highlight. I think there's exposure compensation. I can't remember now. Shadow, you know, all of those things it actually tells you in the viewfinder. That takes the ambient light and actually lights up that bar. However, if there's not enough ambient light, then you can press this button in, and for 10 seconds it will turn a little artificial light on just to light up your bar, which is quite handy. We have the shutter speed ring from B, the 60th of a second manual for flashes that aren't f280 flashes, through to 1 second through to 1,000th of a second. Okay, the rest on the front, we have the T-series and also the F-series, basically the Olympus System Series flash connectors. There's a little cover on that, and then we have the normal X-Sync connector down the bottom. Again, a little cover on that. On the back, it's pretty basic. We just have the little memory, film memory slide, and if I can just open up the back, I'll take off this bit of gaffer tape, because my camera leaks light, and that is because, not because it's a fault with the design, but because some goose decided that they needed to jemmy open the back door, and they've actually broken a little piece off the slide rail, and it lets a little bit of light in, which is a damn shame. So it is robust, but it's not indestructible, as I said before. So a little bit of gaffer tape, and it works a treat. And bar that, this is cosmetically a beautiful camera. So I've been very, very lucky to actually pick it up. In the automatic setting, I think I showed you, we've got battery check. And there's a audible indication and a video and a visual indication as well. We've got an auto setting. We've got the manual setting as well. I can't remember if I showed you that. Okay, in the auto setting, you have 60 seconds through to 2,000th of a second. And if you buy the F280 flash, you have this wonderful, wonderful super feature called Super FP, and the Super FP function will allow you to use flash up to a 2,000th of a second shutter speed. Absolutely amazing. It's one of the few things that Olympus have called super that really is super. I think it's fantastic. You use it in daylight up to 2,000th of a second with a wide open aperture, low speed film or something, and you can get all sorts of fantastic effects with it. There's also a connection there for the Olympus system as well, so you can use your flash off camera if you want as well. What else can I tell you about this? On the bottom, it takes the winder. Sorry, I've just put that bit of gaffer tape there. It takes the winder and the motor drive. It takes the data back as well. This is a professional model. It has a tripod socket, 2 LR44 batteries. The camera will not work without LR44 batteries. You need all that metering and whatever else. The OM3 is different. There is the... That's about it. I can't think of anything else. I hope that's been of some use to you. Very complex camera. I've talked really, really fast. I apologise for that, but I needed to get all of that information in. I love it. It's my second favourite camera, no doubt about it. It feels beautiful in the hand once you get that spot metering under control. I wouldn't say it was foolproof, but it's very, very accurate. It is a beautiful piece of Olympus engineering. Kudos to Olympus for this camera. I absolutely love it. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.